Hi, I'm Dan White, UAF Chancellor. In November 2018, we launched a strategic planning effort for 2025. Our process was organized around 6 goals, focused on who we are and what we aspire to be. These goals included modernizing the student experience, solidifying our global leadership in Alaska Native and Indigenous programs, achieving Tier 1 research status, transforming UAF's IP development and commercialization enterprise, embracing and growing a culture of respect, diversity, inclusion, and caring, and revitalizing key academic programs. For each of these goals, a committee was made up of students, faculty, and staff. And throughout the 2018 to 2019 academic year, these committees met, they gathered input, and they drafted reports. Those reports answered 3 critical questions. Who do we want to become? Who are we now? And how do we get from who we are now to who we want to be? Final reports of the planning committees were published in 2019, back in July. The rollout of the plan had to be put on hold due to organizational uncertainty in the UA system. But the committees were reconvened in the summer of 2020, and the committee chairs were charged with the next steps in the process. This included a presentation on the committee's goal, a 2-page overview, and a 2-minute video. I want to thank the committee chairs for their leadership, all of the committee members for their hard work, and to everyone who contributed input or feedback throughout this process. Between now and the end of the academic year, we seek your input so that these plans can be finalized and published as UAF's Strategic Plan 2025. Thanks for choosing UAF.
Thank you for joining us today. We are here to share information on UAF Strategic Plan for 2019 through 2025 by sharing information with you on goal number 5, embrace and grow a culture of respect, diversity, inclusion, and caring. My name is Margot Griffith. I'm the Diversity Officer at the Office of Equity and Compliance, and my pronouns are she and her.
And I'm Diane O'Brien, also she, her. I'm Professor of Biology and Wildlife and the Institute of Arctic Biology.
UAF's strength is its people. When diversity, equity, and inclusion-related programs are put into place for those most marginalized, it makes things better for everyone, ensuring a stronger, richer community in UAF's future. These efforts are especially important during times of budget reductions and events like COVID-19, where marginalized individuals tend to be impacted more with this additional adversity. Today, we'll be sharing the goal number 5's committee recommendations, actions being taken, items that are still being discussed, and other efforts that are expanded and carried forward through this work at UAF. For those of you interested in a copy of these slides, they'll be posted on the strategic planning website at uaf.edu/strategic. To provide some background, goal number 5's committee was appointed by Chancellor White in 2018 and led by Dr. Jesse Young Robertson, who unfortunately was unable to attend with us today. Much committee work was completed, but then paused for parts of 2019 and 2020 when the possibility of a 1 UA structure was being discussed. This planning effort was then reinvigorated in 2020. The committee's full recommendations are available at uaf.edu/strategic. We are now going to transition into sharing values and direction recommended by the committee.
By bringing UAF's goal of embracing and growing a culture of respect, diversity, inclusion, and caring to fruition, we will create systematic change. We will be a positive, human-centric university that focuses not only on an individual, but also on community well-being. We will be an institution that celebrates the unique nature of our students and employees through strengths-based approaches.
The committee's report started with a statement affirming that the terms respect, diversity, inclusion, and caring mean to the committee and UAF. Diane and I will share these values, then move into committee recommendations and actions in response. A culture of respect at UAF includes honoring and valuing the individuals in our community whose different experiences and perspectives contribute to a greater whole. As a result, UAF employees and students would all feel a sense of worth and value. A culture that embraces diversity at UAF respects and takes pride in the diverse backgrounds of our community and strives for the UAF population to reflect our state demographics. Students should be able to see themselves represented at all levels and in all positions at UAF.
An inclusive culture goes beyond embracing diversity, ensuring that all members of our community are welcomed and supported. Inclusion at UAF means that our environment, from displayed artwork to marketing materials, reflect our diverse community. In a culture of caring, we demonstrate care toward others and ourselves, and we recognize one another as a whole person. There is a proactive and preventative focus on improving mental health and well-being.
Now that we've walked through UAF's values, Diane will walk us through recommendation highlights from the committee's report, and I will share the actions that have been taken, are planned, or have yet to be implemented.
The committee made 2 recommendations for positions focused in different areas of diversity. One recommendation was to hire a chief diversity officer at the vice chancellor level to establish direction, goals, and strategies, to take concrete actions on diversity, and to demonstrate UAF's commitment to diversity and inclusivity initiatives. The second position was to hire a student affairs professional to coordinate diversity and inclusion efforts in student programming.
In November 2019, Joe Melbert Narvaez was hired, and then in May 2020, Margot Griffith was appointed as UAF's diversity officer. The Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator position is housed within the Nanook Diversity and Action Center within Student Affairs. This position leads and provides prevention and education programming specific to diversity, equity, and inclusion related topics. This position mainly focuses on student development, but also provides and collaborates on programs that are open to employees and our community. The Diversity Officer position is housed within the Department of Equity and Compliance. This position is responsible for leading strategic level efforts focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion at UAF. These efforts include everything from strategic planning for UAF, collaborating with units on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, for programming, and to ensure UAF is in compliance with civil rights laws. This position provides connectedness in diversity and inclusion efforts across UAF, with other UA campuses, and within local, state, and national communities.
The next recommendation was to establish policies to promote diversity in recruitment and hiring. They recommended requiring a diversity statement from both new hires and promotions into leadership positions. They also recommended requiring applicant review criteria, assessing candidates' potential to support and enhance diversity and inclusivity at UAF. They recommended requiring search committee training on implicit bias, stereotype threat, and recognition of systematic privilege and oppression. They recommended that we ensure job ads are posted to diverse email groups and networks for Black, Indigenous, and other people of color in academia. They recommended that we establish hiring and promotion practices that are aimed at diversifying UAF leadership, and recommended that we create a policy prohibiting the hiring or retention of employees or contractors with a history of sexual harassment and misconduct, stalking, domestic violence, racism, and other discriminatory acts.
There is much work being done and in progress to fulfill these recommendations. The UAF Provost has instructed deans and directors to require a diversity statement from both new hires and promotions into leadership positions. In addition, UAHR is working to develop diversity statements, criteria, and implement them into the standard screening process for recruitments across UA. Chancellor White has been very proactive in requiring search committee briefings for faculty and leadership roles since 2017, when he started as UAF's chancellor. Within diversity briefings, committees were educated on UAF affirmative action plan data and goals for diverse hiring into roles where women, Black, and Indigenous individuals are underrepresented, wording on position descriptions and ads, diverse advertising options, and information on implicit bias. More recently, UA Labor and Employee Engagement expanded the briefings to search committee training for all positions and focused more in depth on implicit bias, stereotype threat, and recognition of systemic privilege and oppression. In addition, UAF is developing a robust diversity, equity, and inclusion training as a project within UAF's Inclusive Excellence Strategic Plan. To also support hiring, retention, and professional development, UAF is creating a workforce diversity plan as a project through the strategic planning process. The strategic plan incorporates many of the recommendations from the committee, but also expands the work beyond the committee's recommendations. In relation to applicant misconduct disclosure, UAF's Title IX coordinator has been working with UA and other campuses on this to help mitigate the possibility of hiring individuals with a history of sexual harassment and misconduct, stalking, domestic violence, racism, and other discriminatory acts.
As a symbol of traditional land ownership acknowledgement and with direction from local tribal groups, the recommendation was to consider including dual language street and building signs, and at the entrance and welcome points to campus, a welcome in the Danakh language on existing or new standalone signs, as well as Danakh art installations.
A UAF land acknowledgement was created and is written in a way that it can be adopted to other locations outside of the Tratida campus. Many classes have been held across UAF, one of which was offered during Indigenous Peoples Day, on how to create land acknowledgements and the importance of creating and speaking them in a respectful and meaningful way. There is much work to be done as our land acknowledgement resource is currently being expanded for locations across the state with phonetic and audio recordings for pronunciation. The Master Planning Committee on Diversity and Inclusion is working on exterior improvements such as signage and updating UAF's landscaping plan to include more species native to the interior that are of high importance to the Indigenous people of the Tanana Valley. This started at Tratida Park. The University of Alaska system, guided by the Board of Regents, has deployed an Alaska Native Success Initiative to improve Alaska Native representation and success throughout the University of Alaska system. UAS has a strong action team focusing in this area.
The committee recommended expanding resources to support mental health, well-being, and connection. Their specific recommendations were to improve and expand access to mental health care options and counselors, to train employees on crisis management to connect students to mental health care, and to create and support programs to prioritize and strengthen student and employee well-being.
Much change has occurred at UAF over the past few years in providing resources, support, and well-being programs, but continues to grow and expand. There has been an increase in the number of counselors and interns at UAF Health and Counseling, with the expectation of continued expansion into fall 2021. Additional staffing provide a focus on diversity and multicultural competency, as well as an emphasis on rural and Indigenous needs. Student Affairs has a position within the Nanack Diversity and Action Center that is focused primarily on prevention and wellness programming. UAF Health and Counseling holds daily consultations where students, staff, and faculty can speak with a counselor about concerns for self and others, has provided several mental health first aid trainings for UAF staff members, leads support groups such as Mindfulness Mondays, Taking Charge of Your Headspace Tuesdays, gender affirming support groups, and much more. At UAF, the well is a space with dedicated activities promoting the happiness and well-being of students, staff, and faculty. And there is also a new 1-credit class on the science of happiness and well-being, which was offered starting spring 2021 with great attendance. The Nanack Diversity and Action Center provides a wide array of training and workshops in the areas of diversity, equity, inclusion, prevention, and wellness to include Safe Zone, Green Dot Bystander Intervention, identity and intersectionality workshops, self-care, and many more. In addition to all of those great programs, the UA Employee Assistance Program, Dear Oaks, is also providing online webinar resources focused on mental health and well-being, such as self-care and remaining resilient, remaining balanced in a changing world, among many others. Again, these slides will be posted on the Strategic Goals website for reference, but we wanted to share these websites in case you are interested in learning more about any of the programs we just discussed.
The committee recommended that UAF invest in family-friendly policies and resources, and their specific recommendations were to expand options for childcare, to increase spaces for nursing, to allow for or enhance paid parental leave and also leave sharing, to make job sharing opportunities more widely available, and to allow for flex time.
Chancellor White appointed a child care task force in December 2020. The group was tasked with reviewing current child care structure and needs on campus and provide recommendations. This report is currently being reviewed by leadership. The Equity and Compliance Director and Facility Services Space Planner are working together to designate additional nursing spaces across UAF so that nursing mothers are able to quickly and easily access adequate resources. And there's continued discussion on paid parental leave, leave share, and job sharing. However, requests for flex time can be made to supervisors. Supervisors must work in consultation with UA Human Resources to determine parameters around the flex time options.
The committee recommended taking unequivocal steps against harassment. Their specific recommendations were first, to define harassment as research misconduct, similar to falsification of data or plagiarism, to streamline processes for reporting and discipline, to strengthen mechanisms for victim support, and to report misconduct to funding agencies.
UAF has been educating the campus community on harassment and discrimination reporting procedures, providing supportive measures to victims regardless of whether or not an incident occurred within the university's jurisdiction, and has defined process for reporting misconduct to funding agencies. A strong concerted effort began in 2017, but is continuing to expand and become more proactive as infrastructure has been built. UAF has provided support for increased staffing and training for those responding to reports of misconduct and addressing safety concerns. Professionalism, efficiencies, and a strong support network has been created for victims and those navigating the complaint process. In addition, the Center for Student Rights has been working to develop protocols on actions taken for disciplinary actions. UAF provides multiple programs and events that provide healing opportunities and bring awareness to our UAF community. In addition, UAF reorganized the behavioral intervention team into the student care team, which is a cross-disciplinary group providing general support to students that are struggling or are of concern. A process for reporting misconduct to funding agencies has been put in place. In addition, the Title IX coordinator has collaborated with and participated on panels with federal agencies such as NSF and NIH to discuss and provide mechanisms being used to prevent and report sexual harassment.
The committee recommended ensuring that compensation of UAF staff and faculty is appropriate and fair. This includes wages that meet national norms, annual step increases, and a standardized and livable wage for adjunct professors.
UA Human Resources contracted with a consulting firm to conduct this compensation review and has been working with campus leaders on addressing pay discrepancies. There are considerations that must be made due to budget constraints, so there is ongoing discussion with UAF leadership, UA Human Resources, and direction provided by the UA President and the Board of Regents on these subjects.
The committee recommended creating and communicating clear pathways for employee career advancement, specifically developing workshops and resources on career strategies and pathways within UAF, and creating assessments to identify transferable skills among positions.
There is more work to be done in this area. However, great strides are being made. Through UAF Strategic Planning for Inclusive Excellence, a workforce diversity plan is being created. This plan will assist in actions from early recruitment, hiring, onboarding, professional development, and promotion of employees. The Provost's office has sponsored a support program called the Faculty Accelerator. This program is comprised of partners from across campus with a shared goal to create an ecosystem of support for faculty to include mentoring networks, learning communities, teaching cohorts, research partners, writing groups, and customized individual pathways for growth. UA Human Resources has recently started providing training and workshops on equity, supervisory skills, and professional development.
The committee recommended establishing diversity, equity, inclusion, and caring as criteria for faculty and staff evaluation and accountability. UEF leaders should be able to demonstrate an in-depth understanding of implicit bias, stereotype threat, favoritism, systematic privilege, and oppression. Individuals in leadership positions must lead by example by engaging in supporting and self-care among employees and students and promoting diversity and inclusivity in their work environments. Individuals in management positions must prioritize conflict management among employees and swiftly and unequivocally discipline individuals with a record of poor or unacceptable behavior toward other UAF community members. And individuals in leadership positions must lead by example and not shy away from conflict management and addressing conduct issues.
Through the Strategic Plan for Inclusive Excellence, a training program for the UAF community with specific elements focused on leadership roles is being developed. This program will require hard work through inner reflection and personal growth, promoting an in-depth understanding of implicit bias, stereotype threat, favoritism, systemic privilege, and oppression, so that our community can be led by those with understanding of why supporting and caring with equitable and inclusive policies, practices, communications, growth opportunities, and accountability are critical and necessary to UAF. In addition, UAHR has expanded training opportunities to include supervisory and search committee training, which reiterate and connect these training topics as they pertain to roles within the organization. UAHR is working with supervisors to provide them the tools to address issues and empower them to do so with guidance from HR staff, and Chancellor White is requiring staff to complete performance reviews. There's been much work done, but there will always be more to do. In order to continue moving forward these efforts, goal number 5 recommendations are being incorporated into UAF Strategic Plan for Inclusive Excellence, which is designed as an agile plan continuing to grow and embrace a culture of respect, diversity, inclusion, and caring at UAF for many years to come. In closing, we would like to take a moment to thank the committee for the excellent work, time, and energy they have invested into moving this effort forward. Without their efforts, we would not have the forward momentum that you saw in many of the actions we shared with you today. This concludes our presentation, but if you're interested in getting involved in these efforts at UAF, please go to the Inclusive Excellence page and complete the participation form linked at the bottom of this slide. Thank you for joining us today, and goodbye.